Welcome, everybody, to another live episode of the Unquestionably Raw NBA podcast. I am your host, Matt Miller. Today, we've got Gonzo and we've got Pete Toll back with us again. Welcome back, Pete.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. Had to get a little refresher, but the playoffs have brought me back.
Yes, outstanding. I'm going to start off with Gonzo. Gonzo. So tonight, we all know Bulls up 2-0 against the Celtics, 1 versus 8. The news comes in. Rondo's out 7 to 10 days minimum with the broken thumb, I believe it is. So what were your thoughts on tonight's game, and what do you think going forward for the Bulls without Rondo?
It just goes to show you how important Rondo is to the team, being a floor general out there. Um, just looking at that game tonight, first of all, Grant at point guard is not going to work. Uh, I'm expecting them to change some things up. Maybe have D Wade run the point guard, in my opinion, or give Cameron Payne more minutes, just to see what he can do. Michael Carter Williams is not even an option. He's missing layups. He's not sticking anybody anymore. The seat warmer on the bench, in my opinion, as well. He really sucks. But let's give credit to Boston tonight. Um, they shot 45.9% from three. Avery Bradley 4 for 6 for three. Horford 2 for 3 from three. Gerald Green 2 for 3. Rozier off the bench 3 for 5. The Bulls are still winning the rebounding battle, but you're not going to win, especially when you got Rondo out and you got Jimmy shooting 7 for 21 and D Wade shooting 6 for 18. That's 33% shooting apiece. That's terrible. And not to mention, the Bulls only had 14 assists for the night, and I think the whole third quarter they didn't have one assist uh, on any of those field goals that they scored in the third quarter. Boston also assisted on 41 field goals made. They were assisted on 34 of them. So they were moving the ball around. They weren't allowing the ball to stick. Um, they were getting guys open. They were exploiting the Bulls' mismatches. And again, I want to. I'm hoping Hoiberg for the next game. He's getting, and I know it's not common to put rookies in the game, but when you got a guy like Rondo that went down, it might be time to start utilizing some of these guys like Denzel Valentine, letting him get more than 4 minutes because he was only in the game for 4 minutes, but he got 3 points and 4 boards. Imagine if that was 12 minutes, it could possibly be more points and more rebounds. Let's get Anthony Morrow in. I know he's just a spot-up three-point shooter, but I mean, we know he can knock down corner threes. Let's get him in the game and see what he can do. What about Joffrey Levine? Get him in the game. See what he can do. Let's utilize all the options right now, especially since our floor general is down. Let's utilize what we have on this bench. And then we got guys we can use for space on the floor. Valentine, Mara, like I said, Levine, him as well. Zips has been playing pretty good, and I see his confidence is getting better after each game. But credit to Boston. I mean, they with Rondo being out, and the Bulls look confused. They seem sluggish. I was just kind of amazed at how Jimmy Butler was getting shut down by Avery Bradley. Like he's been really pesky towards Jimmy Butler. Was allowing him to get to certain spots on the floor. He was kind of in his hip a little bit. I mean, it kind of affected Jimmy, but Jimmy has such a size advantage. I'm trying to figure out what was going wrong with Jimmy as well. He missed a few layups as well. Just the Bulls just seemed real flat coming out of the gate.
Absolutely. Pete, what do you think the Bulls can do without Rondo? Obviously Carter Williams and Grant, they just didn't get it done tonight. They look like deer in the headlights.
Yeah, I talked to you about it, just saying that basically you could throw Cameron Payne, Isaiah Cannon, Jerry Grant, and then Michael Carter Williams. You can blend them all together, and they still wouldn't be a capable NBA point guard. Michael Carter Williams is going to be on Olympiacos in the Euro League next year.
Or back on your
because he's garbage.
Or back on your Sixers.
No, absolutely not. Just a couple on Gonzo's point. I mean, I think he hit everything perfectly because they need spacing on the floor as far as with Boston, because you basically, if you're Boston, you've got Marcus Smart and you've got Avery Bradley that can kind of lock up the dribble drive. If you're driving and kicking, to outside shooters, I mean, that's opening up areas for Crowder to have to cover. Even so with Joffrey LeBurn, he can knock down the three-pointer, and you can get him minutes instead of Felicio. Even though Felicio did well with 11 rebounds, he doesn't really give you much else. And I have liked the inspired play by Paul Zipser, especially the corner three shooting. But I think, to Gonzo's point, it's time to get Morrow or Valentine in there, for some extended minutes just to give a different look. That way it changes up. So that way Chicago doesn't get too complacent on offense and Boston can kind of figure out and come back.
And even to get those guys in there, you could always, and until Rondo comes back, let's have Wade and Butler be the primary ball handlers. The offense should never be initiated by Carter Williams, Grant, Cameron. Well, you can give Cameron Payne a chance. He hasn't played yet. See what he can do. But Grant and Carter Williams, they shouldn't be initiating the offense. Gonzo, you said it. Wide open layup for Carter Williams. He's 6'6". He leaves it short. That's just not going to get it done. And when I was eating dinner tonight, me and my dad were eating, and I told him, I said, watch, Boston's going to come out. They're going to get in Chicago's chest defensively. They're going to get after them, and they're going to make threes early. They did just that. Now, Chicago did a good job weathering the storm. They got it down, it was 20. They got it down to 3 at the half. But then the third quarter, it was much of the same. They gave up threes. They became stagnant offensively too. I think and that's why Carter Williams and Grant, they just weren't getting it done. A lot of ball stopping, standing around. Jimmy couldn't get going. So I think now to get Jimmy going, let him do some ball handling. Let him initiate the offense.
And defensively, if you look at Jerry and Grant and Michael Carter Williams, they got eaten alive by Terry Rozier, who's basically a backup. And for all intensive purposes, really doesn't, play all that much. Jaylen Brown kind of sat in this one, instead of Rozier. And Rozier was a plus 19 on the floor. So that tells you all you need to know. Basically, in my opinion, put Wade at the point guard, Jimmy at the 2, and then you have Zipser start it at the 3, and then you bring a combo of Morrow and Valentine off the bench
Valentine can do some ball handling off the bench.
Exactly.
He can do that. We saw. I know it was summer league, but he showed it in summer league. He did a lot of ball handling at Michigan State, so he's capable. And you knew Boston was desperate. They were going to come out, and the Bulls just came out flat, which kind of disappointed me. I know you lose Rondo. He's been great for him the first 2 games, but you got to come out better than they did tonight. And we're just going to have to see what happens Sunday. Hopefully they make the proper adjustments. We'll see, because in the playoffs, it's all about adjustments. Boston now has confidence, though. After game 2, it looked like they were left for dead. They got confidence now.
And on the Boston side of things, they had no one that was able to get double-digit rebounds again in this game. Horford had a game high or a team high 8 rebounds, which is pretty much right around what he's capable of on a good night. And then Avery Bradley was right behind him with 7 rebounds. And obviously Bradley's a very good rebounder for his size. But if Chicago wants to take advantage, they have to do what Gonzo and myself suggested and open up the floor.
Absolutely. All right, now that we've gotten that game out of the way, the big one of the night, Oklahoma City and Houston, obviously – you got the 2 headline guys, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, the big MVP battle. You had Westbrook, who just was awful in game 2 in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to go to you on this one, Pete. What did you think of the Thunder versus the Rockets tonight? What did you see from OKC that you liked?
I thought, honestly, as much hate as I gave Westbrook for the last game, I thought he played better tonight. I didn't really like that Westbrook, had some turnovers that could have been prevented, but basically back-to-back triple doubles. If he plays within himself, then OKC has a chance. But he missed late free throws that were huge. And basically they were James Harden 3 away from losing the game. But an interesting stat is OKC is 34-3 in Westbrook's career when he has a triple-double and then shoots 45%. So that's like almost a 92% winning percentage. So, and in Oklahoma City's defense, or Houston's defense, I mean, you're not getting 20 points next game out of Taj Gibson. It's just not going to happen. The Thunder aren't going to shoot 55%. I don't see it happening.
And the Thunder were 9 of 19 from 3.
Exactly.
The only guy on that team you expect to shoot good is Doug consistently, and maybe Oladipo if Russ throws him the ball. Gonzo, what did you see that you liked from the Thunder tonight?
The Thunder came out fast paced. They seem amped up and ready to play. I'm kind of disappointed in Houston because it seems that they're starting off the last 2 games kind of sluggish, kind of waiting to see if OKC is going to strike first, in which I think they need to come out of the gate and strike first. And another thing I noticed something with Houston most importantly during this game is that Houston they're shooting shots late in the shot clock, and they weren't moving the ball around much this game either. They only had 10 assists for the game, but credit and kudos to the OKC Thunder. 47% from 3, 55% from field goal. They kept up in the rebounding department. They only got out rebounded by 2 rebounds. They had 24 assists as a team. Russell Westbrook played within himself and didn't do too much. I'm going to piggyback what Pete said about the free throws. You got to nail those when the game was that close. But all in all, we still have to say that for Houston to play the way they did and didn't play to the potential that they're capable of, for them to only be down and only to lose off a 3 that James Harden could have easily won the game with, that just lets you know this series, if they just play within themselves, this series will be over a lot sooner.
I could let me play devil's advocate because I totally agree. But if I'm playing devil's advocate, the Thunder have to look at it this way: we should be up 2-1. You win this game, they should have. If Russell Westbrook makes a couple extra passes, they could be up 2-1 right now. So I think if you're Oklahoma City, you got to be feeling pretty good. And one thing I noticed about Westbrook in that fourth quarter, he took some shots that sometimes you shake your head at, but he seemed a little more under control with it. He wasn't just. It didn't look as forced, you know what I mean? Like he hit a contested shot. I forgot who was on him, but it was like, okay, it's a Westbrook shot, but for him, it's a good shot. It was under control. He was finding other guys. I liked how they used Taj Gibson tonight. I think he's a capable offensive threat down low, can hit the 15-foot setup shot. So I like how they used him tonight. Doug was 2 for 4. And let's get this out of the way. And Andre Roberson has been fantastic all 3 games.
Absolutely.
He's been really
he's
good.
done well.
He had 18 games the first game. What do you have game 2? 12 points. I think he had 12 points again tonight. Yeah. He made some threes. Didn't make any threes in game 2, but even in game 2, he was cutting to the basket. And I noticed that's the biggest thing in that fourth quarter of game 2 when Westbrook was just taking horrible shots and not sharing the ball. Everybody started standing. In the first 3 quarters, guys were moving. Russell Westbrook drives, boom, kick it down, pass it on the cuts to the basket. So I think he did a better job of that tonight. And Russ even said it in the post game after game 2. I've got to use my teammates more. And even if he shoots every time down, at least pass it, go get the ball back. Let your guys touch it. Let them feel involved. It's a rhythm game.
Exactly.
What does Mike D'Antoni always say? The ball finds energy. I think that's what exactly. And I think that's what they've got to do going forward. And I think Russ is capable of it. I don't think he's a selfish player. I just think he has that mindset, much like Kobe, much like Iverson. I just have to do this myself. I don't think it's because he's a bad teammate, but he can do better. Even Czar talked about it tonight. Russ can do better. That's what he's got to work on. Nobody's saying he's got to be LeBron James, but he can do better. If he does better, they win game 2, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've got some good guys defensively, but they don't have great shooters. I understand that, but I think if you use the teammates that you have the right way, they can get some easy baskets.
I know all too well. Iverson didn't have shooters around him either. So and he found a way to win, and he was one of the most ball dominant guards that took almost every shot down, so to speak. And um, Russ can kind of mold himself a little bit, like that, where it's like, in crucial moments, all right, I'm triple teamed here. Like I can take a dribble forward, and with his athleticism, he can get over a guy to pass it, or get around a guy rather, to pass it. And you might find a wide open Doug in the corner, and you just seal the win to put you into the second round. And that's what I don't think he realizes mentally. I think it's Russ against the world, for him, and until he gets out of that mindset, I don't ever see Oklahoma City being higher, than a fifth seed out west with his mentality. Now, on Houston's side of things, they've got to cut down on the sloppy turnovers, and that's the big thing, because they had 10 turnovers in the first half, which OKC capitalized on for 16 points. And then on top of that, Patrick Beverly fouled out and shot terribly, 0 for 6 in this game. So, Beverly's your kind of Westbrook defender, that you throw at as your first line of defense. Then you kind of rotate some other guys. I think they rotated a total of 7 guys in the fourth quarter, in game 2, that all kind of guarded Westbrook. But I think that Houston's going to be okay. Exactly to Gonzo's point, he said it perfectly. Just play within yourselves, and you'll be okay. And thank God Ryan Anderson finally showed up. 18 points for him, and he finally knocked down some looks.
Still only 2 of 7 from 3 today, but I think he'll figure. I mean, shooters
It'll
go
come.
through slumps.
Yeah, it'll come.
I wouldn't worry about him. So now I want to talk about a couple of games from yesterday. First, I want to start with the Bucks and the Raptors, and I'm going to go to you, Gonzo. What are your thoughts on this Bucks Raptors series? Are you surprised by what you're seeing? Do you think the Raptors have any kind of a chance to come back?
I don't know. Anytime, it's almost like you would think it would probably zap your momentum for the rest of the series, considering the fact that you guys were losing at halftime 50-19, which is terrible. You only make 7 field goals in the first half. I think DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry in the game total, I think they have 21, 22 points combined. Like they played a really, really, really bad game. And part of it is Milwaukee's matchup because they're lengthy. A lot of guys are long, kind of tall. They're playing the 2-3 matchup zone pretty much, that the Dallas Mavericks used. Obviously, Jason Kidd's teaching them that, but it also shows that, and we've seen this in the past, that Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are not playoff caliber basketball players. They're regular season. Regular season stars. They look great during the regular season. The moment the playoffs start, yeah, you might get DeRozan to get you 20 here and there, or Lowry get you 20 here and there, but they're usually probably shooting like 37%. Shooting very, very bad percentages. I think Toronto is the new fraudulent team, as Pete said. They are. They look terrible at this point in time. I would expect them right now to have this series kind of under control due to the fact Milwaukee has no real playoff experience on their team, except for maybe Jason Terry and Dellavedova, but their stars don't really have any experience. Toronto should have more experience than Milwaukee at this point. This honestly should be a 5 or 6 game series in Toronto's favor. But at this point, I'm predicting this series to be over in the next 2 games. I think Toronto's out of it now.
Pete, what are your thoughts on this thing? Can Toronto come back? Is Milwaukee, are they just overwhelming them too much?
Exactly to Gonzo's point again, the length. If you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo guarding 6'8" DeMar DeRozan, DeRozan's not a 3-point shooter, so basically what he's going to do. Put the ball on the floor, drive forward, and try to pull up if he's not getting all the way to the rim. He's not settling for outside shots to force Antetokounmpo to chase him around. And then with Lowry, you've got Malcolm Brogdon. Yes, he's a rookie, but he's a solid defender. backed up by Dellavedova, who can basically, who many said kind of put the clamps on Steph Curry at one point, and Kyle Lowry does not have the shooting ability of Steph Curry, so you can kind of stick with him a little bit more. But with Toronto, their biggest problem is right now they're getting nothing out of DeMar Carroll. They brought in PJ Tucker to kind of be, basically a backup for defense and give you a little bit of scoring if needed. He hasn't done much. And then you're relying on Serge Ibaka to kind of be your interior defender, and he did well in Game 2 on Giannis Antetokounmpo, stopping him at the rim multiple times and knocking down shots. But what's most alarming with Toronto is they don't go to Valanciunas. He was 3 for 9 in the last game, 11 points, only 7 rebounds. So just no effort all the way around, with Toronto. And with Milwaukee, like, it's hard to say that, what's going to happen, for the rest of the series, because if Lowry and DeRozan are on fire, I mean, it's going to be hard for Milwaukee to stop, because you're counting on Middleton to step up. You're counting on Maker to hit some shots. Then you need Brogdon to hit some shots and Greg Monroe inside. So you have to have all those pieces kind of playing together as a collective unit. If I had to, just to wrap it up, if I had to put a number on it, I think it's going to go 6 games, and Milwaukee is going to squeak out the win, and we're going to see some changes in Toronto in the offseason.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mentioned this with Czar today on the Hangout. He had posed kind of this similar question. I said, like looking at it just from a team aspect of what you're seeing from Milwaukee, the length is just really, really bothering. You think about it. Brogdon 6'5", Tony Snell 6'7", 6'8", Middleton 6'7", 6'8". You got Antetokounmpo. He's 6'11", but plays like he's 7'3" with those long arms. And you got Thon McCurr. Is that how it is, McCurr?
Yes, they say it's McCurr, but I mean, based on that one interview, they came out and said, he said it's McCurr. He just didn't want to correct anybody. I'll stick with Maker just for the simple fact it's easier, and I don't have to remember to change the pronunciation.
If his mama calls him McCurr, I'm going to call him McCurr.
There you go.
So I'm sticking with it now. But, yeah, they got McCurr. Then off the bench, you bring feisty Dellavedova, Greg Monroe, Michael Beasley and those guys. And I got to say, Greg Monroe, how good has this guy been? Defensively, he has been phenomenal. We know what he brings offensively. He can score in the post, hit a 15-foot jumper, really good post passer, as most big men that come out of Georgetown are. But his defense, the active feet, he's getting after it defensively. And I think he's always been capable, but for the first time in his career, he's getting after it, and it's showing. I mean, he's playing starters minutes, because McCurr doesn't get the huge minutes because he's still young. He's 20. He's little. But I think Toronto, I'm disappointed that they don't take advantage of Valanciunas. When you got Thon on him, who's he's skin and bones, he cannot guard him on the block. You got to take advantage of that. And as far as DeRozan and Kyle Lowry go, they've been booty in the playoffs every year. It's the same story every year. Charles Barkley, what did he say last year in the playoffs? Do we need to start this? Do they need to think about benching Kyle Lowry? Like, it's the same thing over and over again. They look defeated. I mean, the game tied 1-1. You can bring it. You can get the home court back, and you just come out and just get roasted like that. I mean, they look like a defeated club, and I think they're going to get done up in 5, unless, maybe DeRozan and Lowry get hot at home and it goes 6, but it looks like a 5-game series to me. It just doesn't look like Toronto has any hope.
I got something else to add too.
Go ahead.
Just the fact that they only were 20. They were 24 of 71 from field goals, but they only had 11 assists as a team. But let's look at Milwaukee's statistics. They had 29 assists on 39 made field goals. They shot 52.2% from 3. So they're not. So they might be kind of dangerous in the next couple of games and possibly further on the playoffs. They could be a problem.
If you look at Milwaukee's 3-point percentage for the series, they're shooting they're like close to 47 for the whole series. So they're making threes. Antetokounmpo's making threes. Brogdon. I mean, how about Malcolm Brogdon? It just goes to show staying 4 years in college. What does that do for you? He's ready to play. He looks like a seasoned vet out there in the biggest games of his career. Yeah, I think it goes to show this knock that, if you play 4 years, you're not. It's trash. It's a trash argument.
Was he a red shirt? And he ended up, didn't he get injured and he played? Was it 5?
Yeah, he played 5. Well, he was a fifth-year senior because
fifth year senior.
He only played 4, but he was there for 5.
Right.
Yeah, but it just goes to show you what these older kids can do.
And people knock his age. He's 24. Like, he doesn't have that much time in the league. Well, I mean, he's coming in season. To me, he's already, better than some of the guys we talked about on the Chicago Bulls, and they've been in the league a couple of years. And so Malcolm
Brogdon is a legitimate starting point guard in the NBA.
Right.
I like, and you know what? His on-ball defense against Lowry has been really good. He's really giving him problems.
There's a 5-inch height difference, if not more. If you count Lowry as being 6 foot, I guess, then
and that's the thing. I know, even Keith has said it, like Brogdon's had his problems defensively. I think a lot of that is kind of his off-ball defense and stuff like that, learning to help defense in the NBA game. But his on-ball defense seems to be pretty solid. I think that was a hell of a pickup for them in the draft. That steal the draft, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now let's go to the Cavs and the Pacers. Yesterday what had 25-point lead for the Pacers. Next, and they blow it, terrible. Pete, what were your thoughts on this one?
First of all, I mean, I love seeing, kind of the resurgence of Lance Stevenson, but I think he tries too hard to make an impression sometimes, and it costs him. Like, why are you pulling up for 3-point shots? You're not a 3-point shooter. Get to the rim, get a foul, try to score that way. Miles Turner settling for threes. I don't like it. He needs to be near the basket. Good 15-foot jump shot is his range. And, you've got Monte Ellis, who they finally bring off the bench. That's an effective role for him. I know he was a +7 in the plus-minus. 17 minutes, 8 points. Small sample size there. But unfortunately, who's not played great, especially in the defensive end, to me is Jeff Teague, and he's a free agent. And if you're Larry Bird and you're looking ahead, kind of how this team's constructed, I don't know that I want to go with Jeff Teague as my point guard, because you give up George Hill for Jeff Teague, and arguably George Hill, to me, is the better point guard. And Paul George is screaming to get out of there. And so it's just a matter of time before Boston or the Clippers or whatever. It just depends on, basically you'll have Melo on the open market and you'll basically have George. So one of them's going to go either the Clippers and the other one's going to go to the Celtics, vice versa, something like that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So obviously it's 3-0. So the Pacers have absolutely no chance to win this series.
I thought they might have been able to sneak a game in and catch them by surprise, but I thought it was going to be the first game, for the series, because I'm like, okay, they'll smack them the first game because the Cavs are trying to figure out defensively, kind of flip the switch, as they say, but they still haven't flipped the switch on defense. And I'm sorry, like, people say that Kyrie Irving's a top point guard in the league. Like, there's no way in hell you're going to convince me of that.
No.
Like, he's got fantastic handles and he can score, but I'm sorry, give me Isaiah Thomas, give me John Wall, give me Steph Curry, CP3, like all of those guys. Hell, at this point, give me Damian Lillard, give me Mike Conley over Kyrie Irving.
I think the biggest knock on Kyrie's fantastic talent, and it's going to come out bad when I say this. It's easy to look that great when you're playing with LeBron James, and he looks great without him, but they don't win.
Exactly.
Notice when in games that LeBron has sat where Kyrie Irving has played, there's something like 4-18, and that's with Kevin Love. So he can't lead teams to wins. He's not a superstar great player. He's a great talent, though. And he's cold blooded in the clutch. I'll give him that. I mean, I can't take that away, but I just don't want that to come off wrong. But it's easy to look that great when you're playing with LeBron James.
It's easy to look good with a clutch shot when you got Steph Curry guarding you from on the perimeter. Like, sorry, no offense to Steph Curry, but you know, I could pull up from three and hit a three over Steph Curry, who's 2.5 feet away. Like, I mean, sorry, and no disrespect to Steph Curry. I love Steph Curry. I'm a Steph supporter. Everything he does on offense is amazing. But he ain't locking down Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving puts people like Brandon Knight on the ground and, embarrasses them with handles. So, of course, he's going to be able to get a look off. Like, you need to put a better – like, they should have had Andre Iguodala on Kyrie Irving on that play, and you could have played off LeBron because you knew damn well, like, that Kyrie was going to try to go. And you know where he likes to pull up from, that same spot on the wing. And so I'm, say what you want, cold-blooded. I'm just going to call it like he had a, better defender. That shot when it went down. I'm hating. I know.
That's all right.
I'm so bitter. I'm so bitter about the Game 5 suspension, and the series got swung just because I'm not a Cavs fan. So
hey, what I always throw out to people when they mention, well, they blew a 3-1 lead. Well, how about this? Last year, when everybody was fully healthy or not suspended, Golden State was 5-1 against Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Draymond goes down with a suspension. Bo gets hurt. Andre Iguodala messes his back up. The momentum swung after Game 5. Still no excuse, but just something to think about. Gonzo, what do you think of this Pacers Cavs? Obviously, I'm guessing it's over for the Pacers for you.
Yeah, the Pacers can stick a fork in it because it's well done. I'm just looking at first before we meet the Cleveland. We're just going to look at Indiana. First of all, Paul George is 5 for 15 for 3. You should not be shooting 15 threes. You're not Steph Curry. That's unacceptable for me. Monte Ellis. And I used to be a Monte Ellis fan. But the more I see him play, I realize that he's a terrible defender.
Yeah, he ran away.
He's just one of those. Yeah, he just like
I would have ran away too if LeBron was coming down the lane like that.
I would look. Poster. I'm not going to give you an easy 2. I would much rather for you to shoot a 3. I would much rather for you to shoot a 3. A 3 is a low percentage shot. I'm going to stand in the way and at least try to give you some type of contact without letting you score that bucket that easy. I'm not going to just run away from you. He's just one of those guys who's always been pretty much about scoring and no defense. And you usually don't win with those type of guys.
I mean, that's his story. Like back when it was him and Curry in the backcourt, he didn't want to play off the ball.
Yeah, the coaching job, McMillan. Like when I look at the way McMillan is coaching, Nate McMillan is coaching, it's like you guys got rid of Vogel for him. Like that just looks like it looks like a mistake now. I think if Vogel was coaching this team, they would possibly be tied up at this point, in my opinion. But just too much LeBron James in the second half. I think he had like 28, 6, and 7 or something like that in the second half with a 30 plus minus rating. It was pretty much LeBron, man. It's just a lapse of Indiana defense. The other guys on the Indiana team does not play with the same intensity as Paul George. They just don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Lance Stevenson has this look. He has this look like he's intense, but he's not an intense player. He's one of those guys that you call like a rec center clown. He's there for showboats. He's there for dribbling. You know what I'm saying? He's there for trying to show people up. But
what I see with Lance, so like I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. What I see with Lance is a lot of times the light bulb's not turning on. Like he looks confused, and like Paul George is yelling at him, like shut up, yapping your mouth on the end, and like make a play, and he kind of has that. Look, I have to make a play. Like I'm still the man. Like I'm born ready. Like, And, the bad thing is Nate McMillan in that offense. Like Nate McMillan, let's just boil it down. He sucked as a coach in Portland. He kind of did his time as the assistant. Let's be real here. Larry Bird did not want to pay somebody, overpriced, basically what was out there on the market when he could get somebody just as marginal in his assistant and pay him less. That's what it comes down to. It's not like McMillan was like this grandiose coach that did such a great job. Like he knew that there's a chance that Paul George might be out, going back to when he forced Paul George to be a power forward. And he knows that, basically Monte Ellis is on his way out as far as a career. So he had to do something as a shakeup. So he brings in Lance. Well, Lance has a great game. And then, he throws in some duds. And to your point, he looks good. But in the end, what does Indiana have that's going to match up anywhere close to Cleveland in upsetting them? Like, there isn't anybody.
And just looking at the stat line from the game, like Indiana had 95 field goal attempts. Cleveland had 87. They out rebounded 40. They had more assists. They had 25 to 23. So they pretty much won every category. They had more possessions. They just couldn't find anybody else other than Paul George to make a shot when they needed it. Like
and
they looked real bad in that second half. They looked real dry. They looked like they weren't into the game anymore, and they looked defeated.
And I think this is, you can see it in Paul George's face, his mannerisms, his comments. He wants out of there. And if I'm the Indiana Pacers, you like Pete said, what's the point of bringing Teague back? Rebuild mode. You fire Nate McMillan. Call Boston on the phone. We want Jaylen Brown. We want this year's next pick. We'll give you Paul George. Boom. Build around those. You can draft your point guard, even if it's not Fultz or Ball. You can still get Dennis Smith, De'Aaron Fox, somebody. You got Miles Turner. You'll have Jaylen Brown. Just go through a rebuild. Get you another coach in there and start fresh. That seems like the most logical thing.
I don't give up that pick this year. Like, you either take Memphis's 2019 pick and like a combo of Jaylen Brown and somebody else, or too bad. Because, like, think about Paul George, and he has to have the ball in his hands. Then think about Isaiah Thomas having to have the ball in his hands. It's just not enough. It's going to be you're going to have a lot of cluttering on the perimeter of like who's going to get the ball when. If George is bitching about passes now, like, well, so-and-so should have passed me the ball. What's he going to do in Boston's offense? Then you have to look at, like, if Paul George is traded this offseason, he's a free agent the following year that, obviously has a chance to re-up if it's Boston, but that's a big risk to say we're going to give up the chance at Fultz, or I don't really think Lonzo Ball fits on Boston, but, looking at kind of what's out there, like Malik Monk as a shot maker, or Dennis Smith or De'Aaron Fox, like those guys, like, depending on where it falls for Boston's pick.
If the pick falls 2, 3, or 4, which is the lowest it can go is 4. If it falls 2, 3, or 4, do you make the trade then?
If it falls to 4, I think
Fultz
about
is gonna
it.
Go.
But if it's like at this point, if it's 1 or 2, I don't make the trade. Like, I don't think Paul George is worth that. Just how he fits in the offense. Like, I just don't.
See, I think Paul George could fit if he were to. It depends if he would, because I think Paul George could be an excellent catch and shoot guy rather than trying to create on his own, which he can do if it's necessary. But if he were to buy into the team system, catch and shoot, he'd be a hell of a pickup for them. I don't know that he will. I think that's the thing. If he's willing to do that, then it might work. But you just never know with some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Now, I wanted to, before we get out of here, I meant to touch on this on Toronto. If they lose this series, Pete, is Casey out of there?
Absolutely. Like, they were going to fire him last year, and he barely made it through. Like, because you have to look at it like, all right, this would be what, the third year that they get bounced, and Lowry hasn't played well. Like, Lowry's got that early termination option too. Like, Lowry can look at, all right, I want to go to another team and be the man, or go to a better contending team potentially.
San Antonio.
No, I mean I don't, because it's going to be hard to fit him into San Antonio potentially, just the way he plays. But like, I mean, overall, if you're Toronto, I mean, I think you've seen enough of what Dwayne Casey can bring. I think Ibaka being a free agent, he's got to think about some things too. How he wants to fit. Valanciunas is up in 2018. That's another person they've got to re-up. Like, it's a lot of money thrown out for a team that's like basically in mediocrity. And if they get bounced by a team that they should have easily beaten in Milwaukee, despite Milwaukee's length, I mean, they're down Jabari Parker. They basically got role players around Antetokounmpo. So, or young guys at that, that was a sweep all day for Toronto if they came out and really wanted it. But to me, DeRozan, until he gets an outside shot, I don't put him in my top 5 shooting guard. Sorry.
Oh gosh, no. Gonzo, is Casey gone if Toronto loses?
Absolutely. Should have been gone last year. I think it's time for a change in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Did you guys? I know you guys probably seen it. You know when the Raptors were doing the intro last night, Milwaukee Bucks, whoever the guy who runs
the Barney song
is so petty. They played the ball under the star lineup intros for the Raptors.
that was cold though. I did have to laugh at that. Like, and then think about this, like for Toronto too. Remember they lost Bismack Biyombo, who was huge for them last year, and so I think that's really affected them, whether they want to admit it or not. It's really making a difference. And Toronto, to me, they're going to be middle of the pack. To be honest, Toronto lucked out, and I said this way back, months ago. They lucked out on a weakened Eastern Conference this year. A lot of the teams struggled, and they ended up, kind of capitalizing on that late. To be honest, it should have been Washington in that 3rd spot, but Washington kind of slipped off a little bit late.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up tonight. Depending on how if the games are really good tomorrow night, if there's 1 or 2 good ones, I'll definitely we'll get on here. It'll be late, obviously, after Golden State, so everybody should be on the lookout for that. And I'll tweet links out and all that good stuff so everybody can check it out. But until possibly tomorrow night, we will see you next time.